Okay, so this section is Yogi Bhajan's alternate offer. So this is Bhajan's letter in response, which was written June 1st of 1972. I am in receipt of your letter dated May 19th, 1972, and I am very grateful to you for your 5 pages kind remembrance, and I appreciate it very much. I value your opinion very much, but I definitely feel that it will be most appropriate if you meet these children on the soil of the United States, know them, and then you can really make your opinion. I am very grateful to know that you are a very devout Sikh, and the greatest thing I have found out of your letter is the answer to my greatest question: why Sikhism could not spread. The author was conscious enough to turn down the offer of visiting the USA to watch the missionary work done by Yogi Bhajan by replying, "Opportunities to visit the USA and the UK will come in good time, and I will avail of them according to the sweet will of God." Therefore, Yogi Bhajan sent a letter of apology, and there the matter ended. Fortunately, I have also found the author's comments and observations allowing us to peep inside the author's motivation for not writing any book for Yogi Bhajan in 1972 and persuading him to write the first edition of Sikhism and Tantric Yoga in 1977. I am reproducing the same verbatim for the benefit of the readers as an historical record of posterity. Quote, "My motivation for not writing any book for Yogi Bhajan in 1972 happened to be the same as the one which persuaded me to write a critical study of his teachings of Tantricized Sikhism, Sikhism and Tantric Yoga in 1977. I did not write for Yogi Bhajan in 1972, in spite of his tempting offers of large sums of money and trips to the USA, because I suspected that his teachings were not authentic Sikhism. He merely wanted my books to distort its text and put his own ideas and publish it in my name. Thus, he wished to involve me in his cult teachings and get my sanction for them indirectly. Mr. Kartar Singh Johar of Yuba City will testify that he offered again the amount he had given to Jethedar Gurchan Singh Tora, Gianni Mahinder Singh, and Hukam Singh et al. If I gave him unstinted support. He also assured me that the SGPC leadership is in his pocket, and they would always be at my back and call to serve my interests, just as they were serving his interests. The picture of his racketeering that goes on in our august religious body, SGPC, which he gleefully painted, was soul-chilling, and from that day, I felt that I must do something to help the American Sikhs to see the right path and the right way of achieving Sikh experiences. I had to convince them that they must turn their back on Yogi's absurd tantricism and his organized racketeering and blackmailing those who ask him to desist from these evils. And that's from the author's diary written in 1978. This is how the idea of writing a book on Yogi Bhajan's cult practices was conceived. Professor Kulraj Singh rightly puts it, quote, "The most notable trait of Dr. Trilochan Singh's personality was his total commitment to Sikhism. He would in no circumstances compromise in relation to Sikh doctrines and the interest of Sikhism. This is something unique in an age in which religion has become a flogging horse and a commodity that commands a highly lucrative market, particularly in the West. With his rich stock of Sikh scholarship, Dr. Trilochan Singh made a most attractive partner for flourishing godmen. One of them overseas through tempting baits. Since the proposed partnership involved betrayal of the Sikh doctrines, Dr. Trilochan Singh's answer was a trenchant 149 pages book entitled Sikhism and Tantric Yoga. And that was written in an article called A Crusading Scholar in the Sikh Review from Calcutta in February of 1994. When this documented exposure of Yogi Bhajan's cult practices reached India in 1978, the seriously upset Sikh leaders warned 3HO that they should stop un-Sikh-like practices and confrontations with Sikh Sangats in the USA and Canada. Prem Kakar, considering herself to be the Mother Superior of American Sikhs, wrote a dictatorial letter commanding the SGPC and Akali leaders to fall in line with her directions. Upset by the haughtiness of the 3HO people, the SGPC authorities wrote back quite a harsh letter. Then Guru Banda Singh, who claims to be the head granthee of 3HO, wrote a long letter to Gianni Mohinder Singh, who was kicked out for allowing the SGPC machinery and journals to be used for promoting 3HO's un-Sikh-like practices. Few lines from this legendary letter are worth quoting, and this is one of those. Quote, "The Punjabi politicians, Akali leaders, have made a huge mistake. They have viewed the whole situation upside down. They think that we are a movement interested only in acquiring power, influence, and position, and that, like them, we can be bought, pressured, and manipulated. It is a mistake that will cost them dearly. We are your future. We are the ones who have come to carry on. Rather, it is you who have to choose whether to join us in building the future or to confine yourself in the corrupt and rotten past. The motives of your politicians are clear. They think that by eliminating the Sri Singh Sahib, Yogi Bhajan, they can exert their influence over us and lead us to join their corrupt bandwagon. When the Akal Takht granted to Harbhajan Yogi the title of Sri Singh Sahib in 1971, it was no favor to him or to the Americans. The title carried no weight in this country, and surely his former countrymen, typically unwilling to accept any authority or leadership, would never accept it. This letter is a policy statement of 3HO and is revealing in many aspects. In his imperious, high-mighty tone, Guru Banda Singh has the audacity to call other Sikhs backward, believing in their rotten past, compared to the golden present of their sex-oriented Tantrism in the garb of Sikhism, or amalgam of Kundalini Yoga and Sikhism as Yogi Bhajan defined it. Secondly, Guru Banda Singh emphatically repeats the perverted lie, one of the most perfidious lies attributed to the Akal Takht, that in 1971, Yogi Bhajan was appointed the Sri Singh Sahib and spiritual authority over the Sikhs of the Western Hemisphere. At the same time, he concedes that Indian Sikhs will not accept this. Indian Sikhs have always respected orders and titles given by the Akal Takht, but why not this? Obviously, because every Indian Sikh knows that this is a lie constructed in a sacred name of the Akal Takht. The Akal Takht can never impose the authority of a single person on a Sikh Sangat of one region, the way the false propaganda of 3HO, based on false premises, has put it. Every Sikh, however poor in his knowledge and unethical in his living, has a sixth sense about basic traditions of Sikh institutions, and no amount of twisting and manipulations of false documents can convince him. Thirdly, Guru Banda Singh has again not told the truth when he says that these titles are of no use in America. The fact is that they have been purchased in India and used in America by 3HO bosses, as they could not be used in any other country. In fact, the 3HO administration has written a bunch of letters to the USA government to recognize Yogi Bhajan as the Pope of the Sikhs in the West on the basis of these spurious titles, and supporting letter dated July 18, 1974, signed by Jethedar Gurcharan Singh Tora and Hukam Singh, to seek tax exemptions from the U.S. government. And then this next chapter section is called Yogi Bhajan's Boorish Behavior with Sardar Kapoor Singh. In May of 1979, Yogi Bhajan invited the late Sardar Kapoor Singh, National Professor of Sikhism, to Los Angeles. His Khalsa Council gave him a post-dated check of $500 and airfare from Washington, D.C. to Los Angeles, with the avowed purpose of misusing the name of Sardar Kapoor Singh and enlist his support. The moment Yogi Bhajan procured a testimonial of his achievements from Sardar Kapoor Singh, he not only starved him in his ashram, but also abused, insulted, and humiliated him in front of his grandson. Sardar Kapoor Singh publicly described these indignities and compared his confinement in the ashram of Yogi Bhajan to the tribulations of Bhutto while in his death chamber before his execution by the Pakistani government. And that has a note which says, the details have been recorded by S. Santa Singh Man of California in his letter dated May 3rd of 1979 to Yogi Bhajan, and a letter dated February 7th, 1980 to the author. Then it says, later on, Sardar Kapoor Singh's good friend, Santa Singh Man, freed him from the cruel clutches of Yogi Bhajan. The next section is Yogi Bhajan's campaign of vilification against Taqat Patna Sahib Committee. Baba Jaswant Singh, General Secretary of Taqat Sri Harmandir Sahib, was the first to raise the issue of Tantric teachings of Yogi Bhajan. Yogi Bhajan contracted a man of doubtful character and financed his campaign of vilification against Taqat Patna Sahib Committee in the vain hope of capturing power in the committee. Sant Harcharan Singh was persuaded by a minister to extend help of Yogi Bhajan. Encouraged by the minister's recommendation, Prem Kakar wrote a flattering letter to Sant Harcharan Singh to help one Mr. Bikram Singh, the 3HO nominee for capturing power in Patna Sahib Committee, and to start a campaign of vilification against Baba Jaswant Singh, of the type in which they are expert. Sant Harcharan Singh went to Patna Sahib and met all the important citizens and snubbed Yogi Bhajan thus. Quotes, I have been shown a letter dated March 21st, 1978, written by Mukhia Sardarni Sahib Prem Kakar Khalsa, addressed to me, requesting to help one Mr. Bikram Singh of Kala Road, Patna Sahib. I have been told by several respectable Sikhs of Patna city that this Bikram Singh is not a trustworthy person. I may say in this context that no moral or financial support could be given to this Bikram Singh, who credibly has been ascertained as bad from various noble persons who have close knowledge of Takht Shri Patna Sahib. You may therefore issue a corrigendum due to your letters already issued to various Sikh institutions in India as well as abroad, and remove the misgivings. And that letter is dated May 18th, 1978, of Sant Harchand Singh to Yogi Bhajan. St. Harchand Singh's letter has proved that Yogi Bhajan and his 3HO cult followers preferred the bad men to good men. They vilified the whole Takht Sahib committee through calculatory letters sent to all Sikh institutions. But to what end? To prove that they are against truth, decency, virtuous life, genuine service of Sikh institutions. They want bad characters, evil men to do their evil jobs, and they found one Bikram Singh. Birds of a feather flock together.